Grateful this morning to the assistance of Sue French, who is making her debut today as Zoom director, and to our host this morning, Jackie McDaniel. Please take a moment to mute yourself if you aren't already, and settle in while we sing along or listen to Enter, Rejoice, and Zoom in. Welcome this morning. Welcome to the broadcast of the Sunday morning service of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Charlotte County. Welcome to folks who are in Florida and those across the country. Welcome to a place where we are threads of what is in common and we are tapestries of what is different. Welcome to a place where we differ from each other and hold our love strong. It is good that we gather together. If you're new to this community, and if you feel comfortable doing so, I invite you to enter your name and information you'd like to know us to know about you in the chat feature. You may also check out our website for additional information about the fellowship and request email updates regarding our various activities, committees, and programs from the office. The sun's in my eyes. Our speakers this morning are three members of our fellowship. I invited these three because they embody what is good about Unitarian Universalism and the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Charlotte County. Joe Oyer is a calm presence and often the voice of reason and sincerity. He doesn't speak lightly. Debbie has a heart and a sensitivity that makes us feel better when we need a little TLC. Mary Jane is a thread. Now she's a rope of calm and of capability that holds us all together and helps us to see more clearly and be more solid. If you have a chalice at home, you'll have a chance to light it after we light the chalice here. The chalice is the sacred symbol of Unitarian Universalism. We light it at the beginning of each service to remind us that what we are doing here is sacred work. This morning, Mary Jane will light the chalice. In the words of Laura Thompson, who's the lead minister at Minnesota Valley UU Fellowship, across the distance, the light from within me shines, sending love to all. Across the distance, your light is fuel that warms me and helps to keep my own light burning. Together we keep the flame of community burning bright. We light our flame together. Please join me in repeating our affirmation. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our aspiration, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. Our opening words this morning were written by Dr. Reverend Marilyn Sewell, who is Minister Emerita of the First Unitarian Church in Portland, Oregon. Come into this circle of love and justice. Come into this community where we can dream and believe in those dreams. Come into this holy space where we remember who we are and how we want to live. Come now and let us worship together. The hymn, Come, Come, Whoever You Are, is hymn number 88 in the Singing the Living Tradition book. The words in the song were written by Rumi, a Sufi mystic, and the tune is by UU minister Reverend Lynn Unger. This version was created by the UUFCC. Thank you to our music director and the UUFCC choir. We have a tradition at UUFCC of sharing our joys, sorrows, and life milestones by entering them into the Book of Life. While we continue to meet virtually, we ask that you email your joys, sorrows, and personal milestones to bookoflife@uufcc.org. You can also find instructions in the weekly updates from the office. Please send these messages no later than the Saturday prior to the service. The worship associate will read your words to the congregation on Sunday, and after that, enter them into the actual Book of Life, which is in the sanctuary. I've not received any joys and sorrows this week, although I'm sure we have some. But I would like to say blessings to the caregivers and blessings to those who are being cared for. The opportunity to help and support someone is as sacred as asking for help and support when you need it. We're lucky to have one another. We'll have a moment of silence now, and then followed by the Spirit of Life.
Come unto me.
And now for the main event. I believe Debbie is going to start, followed by Joe, and then Mary Jane.
Happy 4th of July, everyone. Let me begin by saying kudos to the select few who have worked tirelessly on the reopening of our fellowship. Cleaning, organizing, painting, yard work, and who knows what else. It looks amazing. Hi, my name is Debbie Conrad, and I have been a member of the UUFCC since 2015 or 16, I don't remember. We moved down to Florida from Wisconsin, and I knew no one at the time, and I missed my friends. At my husband's suggestion, I came to UUFCC to check it out. I immediately found my family. It has been a wonderful experience for me, coming from an Episcopalian background. In Wisconsin, my license plate was Ahimsa, A-H-I-M-S-A, an ancient Indian principle of nonviolence, which applies to all living things. This is pretty much how I feel, unrealistic as it is. But I felt like this fellowship was a good fit for me. I love that I can speak freely and hopefully not be judged. A wonderful lady who many of you knew by the name of Delight once said, "Kindness is my religion." And that really spoke to me. I try very hard to live by these words, but it's been especially difficult the last few years. I find my attitude needs a lot of adjusting, but I can always depend on my friends who remind me just how fortunate I am. You all give me hope. I was looking through my UU guidebook, which I encourage you to do at this difficult time, and I came across what I thought was a great quote. This is part of it by Peter Morales, UU Association of Congregations, copyright 2012. Love what you love and be faithful to what you love. We commit ourselves to walk together, to heal what is broken, to support each other in life's journey, and to make a difference in our lives and in the world. Thank you, everyone, for making a difference in mine.
Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Joe Oyer. When Laura Anderson asked me to speak to the congregation about why I joined, my initial reaction was, oh goodness, what can I say about that? And then I started remembering. My wife Patty and I had come to services for a while, maybe a year. And then one Sunday, after a Reverend Amy's sermon, with the service supported by various and talented members of the congregation, we spontaneously decided to join. It wasn't an entirely new idea for us, but something about that service clinched it. We had been regularly impressed with the folks that we met before and after services, as well as those that we listened to during the Sunday morning sessions. Thoughtful, friendly, and inspiring. Reverend Amy had given her notice with the intention of moving closer to an aging parent who needed her care. We, as snowbirds, were getting ready to drive to Massachusetts for the summer-fall seasons to reconnect with family and friends in New England. Reverend Amy said that there wasn't time for a membership class as one had recently concluded. And as I mentioned, this was a spontaneous decision that day. She gave us a copy of the UU Covenant and had us sign the book. The rest has been on-the-job training, some in person, but mostly on Zoom. I, like so many, am thankful for this technology. Patty and I each belong to a Chalice circle where we've met dear friends and shared experiences and just developed wonderful relationships. We were also in the Widening the Circle group. I know that I have miles to go before I sleep. So, what is it? Why did I join? And why am I here today? Relationships, earnest discourse, human interaction, compassion. Whoever doesn't need a helping hand or at least a hug, a friendly email, or a caring phone call. I know I do. Sharing guiding principles, accepting challenges, moving from my comfort zone into action in support of my beliefs. Ultimately, I found a pathway to these in our enlightened covenant and congregation. Not so much in the well-intentioned religious dogma that I was exposed to in my past. Having been raised as a Christian, I sometimes refer to the UU covenant as my Jesus. Following it requires walking the walk, or maybe better said, walking the talk, finding the path. Initially, I came through the double doors of UUFCC several years ago because of a hunger to fill emotional and spiritual needs. I came through those doors looking for community and for understanding within the context of a world that seemed increasingly polarized and often just downright mean. I came hoping to form bonds with folks who have varied backgrounds and different perspectives, but who share a vision of an interconnected community, both within this congregation and in the larger ecosystem. I wasn't looking for perfection, but I was hoping for reflection, insight, and a willingness to dialogue. If there is one thing that I have learned over the course of my lifetime, it is that relationships are not, they are never, a zero-sum game. Our covenant requires that we respect all individuals, leading with an open mind, compassionate understanding, and maybe even love in our hearts. As the middle path is narrow and slippery at times, I fall off and struggle to return. Truth be told, I'm probably off it more than I'm on it. And as a matter of fact, I can honestly tell you that I'm quite sure of that. I have learned so much from so many of you. This congregation has wonderful, caring, insightful, smart, knowledgeable, and committed people. And I haven't even met all of you. There is such promise here. So many beautiful memories yet to be made together. My plan, if the fates allow, is to be here to share those beautiful memories, those deeply heartfelt moments, and yes, the ever-present challenges with you in this congregation. I am happy that I walked through those doors. Namaste.
When Miles and I got married in 1998, I basically left the Catholic Church. He was divorced, and neither one of us could handle the hypocrisy of getting an annulment. I had been becoming more and more frustrated with the Catholic Church. The sexual abuse scandals, their treatment of LGBTQ, their stance on birth control and abortion, their anti-communist stance, the list went on. I found myself basically being mute during the Mass. I refused to say anything that I didn't believe or agree with. It was a little like my refusal to say under God when I recite the Pledge of Allegiance, only much, much worse because there was a lot more of it. It was time for me to leave. I spent the next decade and a half pursuing my own spiritual path alone. I tried and dabbled with many, many things. Unfortunately, I was raised in an OCD, patriarchal sort of family where everything was black or white. You were either all in or you were out. Everything was black and white, so I just couldn't seem to commit to anything else. I couldn't be a Buddhist because I wasn't ready to commit to not drinking any alcoholic beverages because I liked my beer. I couldn't do veganism completely, so I couldn't be a Buddhist. I had problems with the Trinity, and all my other beliefs. I couldn't possibly commit to another Christian sect. My brother was Hindu, and basically he was just weird, so I couldn't do Hindu. I floundered on all by myself. Miles was and still is not particularly interested in spiritual pursuits. That is an understatement. He listened patiently while I discussed my dilemma, but that was it. I got intellectual stimulation from all kinds of things when we moved to Florida. I had book groups, I had boards that I was on, I had classes I took. That was fine. For Miles, when his best friend from his university days moved back to Kansas from Englewood, and his best friend from the Peace Corps died, he really was adrift. I remember telling him, as only I could say, no one was going to knock on the door and ask to be his friend. He was going to have to go out there and get one. We had always been vaguely interested in Unitarianism, as we called it, and there was a UU fellowship right around the corner for us. So Miles headed off to talk to Rev Amy and see if it might be a fit for us. I was so blown away by the fact that he was even considering a, quote, religion, that I would have gone along with absolutely anything. I started reading everything that I could find or buy on Amazon about Unitarians and Universalists. And I was, and apparently always had been, a true believer in that. So it was going to work out great. We walked in on a Sunday morning, knowing no one. Joni Mountain was sitting at the welcome desk. The first person who approached me was Q Burgess. He took my arm very gently and leaned down and told me that I would not be going to hell for coming here. Right away, I thought, oh my God, he must have heard my mother's voice echoing in my head. So I was sold right off the bat. I always laugh because the very first Sunday Miles and I were here, it was the only Sunday in the history of this fellowship that the worship associate forgot to say that if you were a newcomer to just pass the collection plate without putting anything in it. So we put something in the collection plate. I think they still owe us $10. So we have been regular, almost every Sunday since. We quickly joined conversation among friends, the meatless meals. I joined the Buddhist meditation and discussion group. That cemented an interest in Buddhism for me that I ended up taking classes outside of here in Buddhism. I volunteered to catalog the library books and make an online catalog, and it did that. We made lifelong friends here within weeks. We had so many social activities on our calendar that it was a real juggling act to try and keep it together. Fast forward 5 years, and my love of this fellowship resulted in me taking the office administrator position when Chris McCoy left. I had volunteered and filled in for him for vacations and paternity leave when he and Chrissy had Haven, and we were without a minister at the time, so I kind of felt it was something that I could do to help the fellowship through a difficult time. Little did I know that the ministerless difficulties would morph into the adjustment to a new minister difficulties and would morph into, as I call them, the recent troubles. Through all of this, my love of UUFCC and every single one of you has never faltered. I take that back. One night during the recent troubles, at midnight, I was laying in bed plotting my exit. And I was just plotting how I was going to get all my books home and clean out my office without anybody seeing. Fortunately, I meditated a bit, and when I woke up the next morning, I was back to normal. The things that I love about UUFCC, in no particular order, are the congregation of absolutely, without fail, individuals with good hearts trying their best to live up to our covenant and the principles. The beautiful grounds. I told Miles once that if we ever won the lottery, I would give $1 million to UUFCC on the condition that they stayed here. Our choir and their ability to sing all of our hymns so beautifully, even when there's only a few of them. The beautiful and inspiring services that generally leave me with something to think about during the week and leave me feeling better than when I came in. People who would do anything for each other. And I see that all the time here. People here that are so generous that they inspire me to be more generous. The overlap of people that I find at community events where I can show up at something and there's always one of us there that I can talk to. Our sincere belief and support of Black Lives Matter, and I can say this unequivocally. After the recent troubles, I can still say this. Anything negative that happened was despite our loving intentions and abiding respect for all people. Our sincere attempts to learn about our challenges regarding race, class, gender, and abilities, and our efforts to overcome them. Our ability to work together with respect and reconciliation when necessary. UUFCC is not perfect, but then neither am I. UUFCC is totally worthy of my love and commitment. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much to all of you. I have received a message in chat, and I agree. What a great display of the diversity of minds and personalities here at the UUFCC. Thank you to all of you for your insightful words. I feel better this morning. Our closing words were written by author John Daniel, and it is titled Dependence Day. It would be a quieter holiday. No speeches, no salutes to any flag. A day of staying home instead of crowding away. A day we celebrate nothing gained in war, but what we've given and how the sun's warmth is democratic, touching everyone. And the rain is democratic too. How the strongest branch in the wind give themselves as they resist and give themselves. How birds could have no freedom without the planet's weight to wing that again could come to be only when a whirling cloud of dust pledged allegiance as a world, circling dependently around a star, and the star blossomed into the fire from the ashes of other stars. And once, at the dark zero of our time, a blaze of revolutionary light exploded out of nowhere, out of nothing, because nothing needed the light, as the brilliance of the light itself needed nothing. Offering is a sacrament of the Free Church. It is supported by the generosity of all who join us, except the newcomers. While Zoom and YouTube do not provide ways for us to pass the baskets, financial support is still needed. There are several ways you can give. You can mail checks to the office. You can drop them in our mailbox, or you can call the office to make some other arrangements. We also are equipped to accept donations through the Venmo app. Payments through this app should be made to UUFCC offering. Your generosity is always appreciated. The life of the community is the time where we highlight events and activities in our fellowship. On Thursday, every Thursday, in your email, the updates includes a calendar, links for connecting via Zoom. The updates has information about whether we're meeting in person or via Zoom or both. And it's an important way for us to stay connected. If you would like to have some fellowship events highlighted during the service, you can email them to the worship associates at bookoflife@uufcc.org. Today, following the service, we will have a brief introduction to the Chalice Connections, our newly reimagined news source, from Fred Parmenter, and then we'll have some time to join one another in fellowship. Jackie McDaniels will assist with this. Let me check my messages before I give up talking. I do have another message about the community. If anyone is still interested in the Pagan Interest Meeting Group, please contact Corey Dowd. Corey is having some dental work done, so he, if you contact him directly, he'll share the Zoom information with you. And now please join me in extinguishing our chalice. Extinguishing the chalices at home and in the fellowship using our traditional recitation. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of hope, of community. May those ideals shine in our lives and warm our hearts until we are together again. Go now in peace.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the Spirit of us surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the Spirit of love surround you